إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا ب3 فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. ڈھل گیا سورج شمع جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے ڈھل گیا سورج شمع جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے رات اندھیری سنسان بن ڈھونڈوں کہاں تجھے گل بدن رو رو پکاری ماں دل جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے ڈھل گیا سورج شمع جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا وقت مدد ہے مشکل کشا مشکل کرو حل بغیر خدا تم ہی بتا دو مولا علی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے ڈھل گیا سورج شمع جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا جنگل میں کس جا تو کھو گیا خالی ہے جھولا ہے محل کا کس کو جھلائے اماں تیری ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے یہ تو بتا دے اے حرملا چھیدا ہے کیوں تو نے ننھا گلا یہ تو بتا دے اے حرملا چھیدا ہے کیوں تو نے ننھا گلا ڈوبی ہے خون میں ننھی کلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا رے ڈھل گیا سورج شمع جلی ننھا میرا اصغر کہاں گیا الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى عترته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد. أما بعد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على محمد. Please let us begin this short majlis by reciting Surah Fatiha for the ruh of Muhsin Ali Muhammad Jaffer and other Marhumin, inshallah. There are very few things in life that we are absolutely convinced about. Always there is a degree of doubt. But one of the things that nobody doubts is the advent of death. All of us here have buried people younger than us, let alone older than us. And we know that maut is barhaq. There is no doubt that we will go that way. And for the mu'min, it is not some sort of end of life. And this is something that people should remember, because they tend to fear death or worry about death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse says, look, if you are awliya of Allah, if you have dedicated your life to a God-centered life, then you should look forward to death. It doesn't mean you should become morbid, but it's nothing about it should frighten you, because it is a continuation of life, as Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam says that أيها الناس إنا وإياكم خلقنا للبقاء لا للفناء. O people, you and I have been created to live forever. We have not been created to be destroyed or perish or die. The only thing is لكنكم من دار إلى دار تنقلون. The only thing is we move from one house to another house, one realm to another realm. This journey has got stages. But there is no death. If anything, for the mu'min, we have in many hadiths that it is a release. It is a relief. There was an examination, a test, a trial. They have now finished with that, and now they have gone into the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their reward for the hard work that they have done. So for the mu'min, it is not something that they should shy away from or not think about. Certainly it is something that they should prepare for and look forward to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides for them to leave the world. There is no problem in this. This dunya, in one way, is very, very valueless, if you like. If you live only for dunya, you have wasted your time. But at the same time, everything you acquire in dunya for the next world is the only asset you have got to face all the realms that you will come across. And so from one angle, it is super important. What you take with you here is the only thing you have in your pockets with which to face barzakh and which to face akhirah. So from that point, dunya is important as a place from which to send forth. And all of us have our memories of my Chacha Mohsen. And because he lived in London for a long time, people from Mombasa knew him from those days. There are 2 or 3 things I remember about him that particularly I learned from. And that is, I think, the best way to celebrate life of someone who Allah put in your life so that you could learn something from him. One was his love for learning, reading. Muhsin Chacha read very widely. He read on religious subjects. but he read on odd subjects. For example, he knew how to hypnotize someone. That always mesmerized me. I would say to him, "Mane nahi karta." He would hypnotize. He knew how to analyze handwriting. Many of you have seen this. He would say, "I lakha, write." And he would tell you your character based on the way you wrote on a plain piece of paper. I remember it had to be without lines. And how you wrote, the way you curled your letters, how much space you left in the margin before you started, gave clear indications of your personality. And other sciences, I remember him reading widely, and that was something that I learned from. The second thing was that he had great love for spreading the mission of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and he dedicated large part of his life to that. In Tabligh, he was keen for others to know what the message of Ahlul Bayt was. And he had contacts with people all over the world. When he was in Darut Tabligh, in the IEB, I remember if you were going to any part of the world, it was a good idea to phone Muhsin Chacha before you went. He would give you the name of a Shia living there. Whether it was South America, Far East, the oddest places, he would have an address and he would keep it updated. He would give you a phone number. In those days, we didn't have email. He would give you a phone number, an address. Te am ponchine abai ne phone karjo, Shia ithnashish. Amazing. I remember once when Sayyid Mujtaba Lari Marhum, he wanted to send some of his books to China. He said, "I need to know someone there." So I phoned Muhsin Chacha. I said, "Do you have anyone in China?" He said, he looked up his Rolodex. He said, "Yes." I said, "What is the name?" He said, "Zing Zang Muhammad." I thought he was joking. When I passed it to Mujtaba Lari, Sayyid Mujtaba Lari, he thought I was joking. But lo and behold, there was a Zing Zang, Xing Muhammad, living in Shanghai. And he also had a 4-page newspaper that he would take out every month in Chinese. And he was a graduate from Qom. And this tabligh, this love for sharing the beauty that we have got of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is something else I learned from him. And he would travel and he would sit with the people and he would be fascinated to see different cultures, how they had assimilated Shia Islam into their own cultures and practice it. These are the things we remember. These are the things we learn from. When even in the last year of his life, where he was becoming less and less responsive, I remember if there was a book that came, he would get more animated, more excited. My son, Shahid, the common language that they could speak fast in was Farsi. So whenever he went to Muhsin Chacha, the two of them would speak to Farsi, and my Chachi would just look at them, "Tamilo kasu bolo cho." But he would speak in that language because that was the language he learned in order to learn deen as a youngster, because it opened a window for him. And these were the things he responded to even when he was unwell. It shows, traits that, in my opinion, are admirable, are commendable, and things we can learn from. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him ajr khair for all his hard work, inshallah wa ta'ala. When we leave this dunya, life continues, but life is predicated on what we have brought with us. Right? I just want to spend a little bit of time on one verse of the Quran and leave this. That is from Surah Infitar. Surah is 82, ayat is 5. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you leave this world, what happens? Alimat nafsun ma qaddamat wa akharat. An initial deep realization will form of what you have sent forth and what you have left behind. And this realization will grow even deeper on the Day of Judgment. But in Barzakh, there will be a very clear indication of the worth of your life. Possibly the first time a human being looks at himself truly is in this Barzakh. وَكَشَفْنَا عَنْكَ غِطَاءَكَ فَبَصَرُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيدٌ. Yes, we have removed these veils of dunya. Now you see clearly the truth and the haqq and the batil. Of course, at that time it's rather late to go back and do anything else, although Quran describes many people begging to go back for a week, for an hour even, to put things right. But the time to put things right is now, in this dunya. So, alimat nafsun ma qaddamat. There's many meanings Mufassirin have given to ma qaddamat wa akharat. Qaddamat means to send forth, to send ahead. And akhara is to leave behind or to delay. Mufassirin say Qaddamat is the good things that you have sent forth, the amal salih, the khair that you do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the custodian of that. You send it to Him, you did it for Him, and you will get the jaza from Him. And akhirat, they say, is those good actions that you could have done, but due to disregard, neglect, laziness, you left out, although you knew they were good. So this is one meaning. And you will regret that. They say in a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli. When he was explaining an-nafs al-lawwama, the self-blaming soul, one of the states and aspects of our soul is called nafs al-lawwama. It's mentioned in Surah Qiyamah. He said nafs al-lawwama will blame both the mu'min and the kafir. The kafir, it will blame him on the day of judgment for having ended up in hell. But the mu'min, it will blame him for not having done more that he knew was kare khair. But laziness, etc., he stopped himself from doing that. So one of them, the meanings of akhirat, is what you left behind or what you could have done. Another hadith says, no, qaddamat is, and by the way, so qaddamat is what you sent forth of evil, of guna. Even that is waiting for you. And akhirat is what you resisted of guna. As well, you get the thawab of that. Another meaning given, this is the meaning given by Imam al-Baqir salawatullahi wasalamu alayhi on this verse. He says, qaddamat is that which you believed in as a principle and you practiced it because you believed it to be true. And akhirat is how you taught your family and your friends and society after you by leaving a sunnatul hasana. That people say, I am doing this because Muhsin Bhai used to do this and I have learnt from him. And that sunnah then, it continues to accrue to your benefit also after you have gone. You see, this is the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever begins a good sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the thawab and the thawab of those who practice it. And of course, it applies to bad sunnah as well. So, and then finally, another meaning of qaddamat. So there's a lot of meanings there based on hadith, and the ideas come down to the same thing. It means that which you have with you and that which you don't have with you. Another meaning of qaddamat and akhirat, this is also hadith from Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, is what he sent forth of charity for himself, and what he left behind for his heirs is akhirat. Remember, the Islamic worldview is not about leaving large legacies of money behind. Our Aimma alayhimu salam did not leave huge amounts of money. And when you leave this dunya and you enter the akhirah, you will be asked about your wealth. And the answer, acceptable answer is not, I left it for my heirs. If it was something that you had power of disposal over, you will be asked about it. That you knew that there was people in need everywhere. But you sat on your properties and your bank balances until you died. Others inherited it, but they have undergoing their own trial with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be judged on their wealth. You now have to answer for your wealth. So it is for everybody to realize that, look, especially as we get older, that maybe we do not need all these things. Maybe we can send forth for akhirah so that we find it waiting for us there. So, qaddamat, Imam said. And finally, in another hadith we have that alimat nafsun ma qaddamat wa akharat, means he will be informed of what he did when he was young. Qaddamat. In his early life. Because things we do in early life have greater weight actually. Because there are more choices. When a person doesn't have the energy to do guna and he doesn't do guna, it's different from a person who has choices and still chooses to walk the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why the youth, when they pray the nafilah, there is so much greater thawab for it. When the youth control themselves and do not stray towards sin, there is so much thawab for it. Right? So qaddamat wa akharat means what they did in their later life. And later life also is important, that when we get old, one of the things we have to pray to Allah constantly is not to lose iman. Because, sometimes things happen in later life and words of kufr come out of the mouth, out of frustration. Why me? And you start to resent and all that. This is also a very dangerous state of affairs. So I finish with this dua, which is in Sahifa, supplication number 31 from Imam Sajjad, who prayed for this safety in Iman in late life. He said that, Ya Allah, wafiqni min al-a'mal lima taghsilu bihi danas al-khataya anni. Oh Allah, in this old age, in this older age, give me the tawfiq to do those kind of acts that wash away the shame of the sins that I did before. Through them, I am able to somehow recompense for my defiance in my early life. First thing. And second thing, وَتَوَفَّنِي عَلَى مِلَّتِكَ وَمِلَّةِ رَسُولِكَ. Ya Allah, the day I close my eyes, let it be on your religion and the religion of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He has advised us of all these things while we still live, while we can still do something about it. The rest now is up to us. The rest is up to us, that on a daily basis, whatever age we are, we need to be sending forth. So that when we go there, we have sent to the best keeper, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most honest custodian, who will magnify also what he receives, inshallah wa ta'ala. When it comes to the things that we have been recommended to do when people pass away, amongst them is Ziyaratul Qubur. And when the news of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam's martyrdom came to Medina, the historians say that people entered the streets with tears streaming their eyes. And they had never seen in Medina this kind of public outpour of grief since the time of the passing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That people were holding each other and just crying, because Hussein alayhi salam was so beloved to them. But there was one amongst them who was not content with this. His name was Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari. His story is recounted by Ibn Tawus in his Al-Malhuf. He says that Jabir could not see. He came to one man, a companion of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Atiyah al-Awfi, and said to him, Atiyah, will you take me to Iraq? And Atiyah was reluctant. He said, Jabir, you know, the road is long and the Umayyads are in power. He says, no, but if you take me, I want to go to Karbala. Atiyah says, somehow or other we reached Iraq. When we reached Iraq, there was a sign called a tree called Sidra. Even till today, we have a door called Babu Sidra. This tree was where the grave of Hussein ibn Ali was. He said, once we located it, Jabir said to me, take me to the Furat. There he did ghusl, and then with slow, careful steps, he said, take me and put my hand on the grave of Hussein. And when I did that, he said, Ya Hussein, and then he fell unconscious. And he wept a lot. Then he woke up, and then he said, oh Hussein, it is your uncle Jabir saying salam to you. Why don't you reply me my salam? Then he said, but they told me they cut your throat. They told me they severed your head, Ya Hussein. And in this way, he did matam and girya for 3 days at the grave of Hussein ibn Ali. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that in the akhirah, Allahumma arzuqna shafa'at al-Hussein yawm al-wurud. This tears, this azadari, this allegiance to Hussein ibn Ali, its fruit is seen yawm al-wurud. Yawm al-wurud is the day of entry into the grave, where you see the fruit of this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those people, inshaAllah wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant maghfirah to Muhsin, Ali Muhammad Jaffer, and raise his station in the companionship of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, whom he served diligently and whom he loved very much, inshaAllah. Let us recite one Surah Fatiha for him and all our marhumin.
توجه زيارة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى التسعة المعصومين من ذريتك، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن، عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا قائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. الله